We begin in the quiet New Jersey suburb, long after most porch lights have gone out, when the night feels too still to be safe. Emily Carter stands in the garage barefoot, one arm wrapped around 6-month-old Noah, the other clutching her phone so tightly her knuckles turn white. She is pregnant, trembling, and exhausted from weeks of fear she refuses to admit out loud. The cold concrete under her feet sends a chill up her spine, but nothing feels as cold as the look on her husband's face. Jack hits the wall button, and the garage door rumbles shut, sealing them in like a trap. Madison walks in behind him, leaning against the silver Mercedes with a smirk that doesn't belong in a place where a baby is crying. Emily's heartbeat races. She doesn't know how the night turned into this, how a simple question about a missing bank statement spiraled into accusations, shouting, and Jack grabbing her wrist hard enough to leave a mark. Jack steps closer. "You think you're smart?" he whispers. "Recording things? Making me look like the villain?" His voice is low, dangerous, the kind that makes her body shrink even before her mind catches up. Noah whimpers against her shoulder. Emily rocks him instinctively, whispering, "It's okay, baby, mommy's here," though she no longer believes it herself. Madison folds her arms, her voice sharp. "Just give him the phone, Emily. Stop pretending you're some victim." She glances at the garage door, as if even she's unsure how far Jack plans to take this. Emily shakes her head. "I didn't do anything wrong. Jack cuts her off. "You always do something wrong." He yanks the phone from her hand, scrolling quickly. Emily's stomach drops when she sees the moment his face changes, the moment he finds the hidden audio files she prayed he'd never discover. He looks up slowly, eyes burning. "You are going to ruin me. It's not us." Emily steps back until her shoulders hit the wall. She wants to run, but there's nowhere to go. Noah begins crying louder, sensing the panic in the air. Jack reaches for her again, and instinct takes over. Emily twists away, clutching Noah protectively, her voice breaking. "Jack, please, don't do this. I'm pregnant. He's just a baby. Please." For a split second, Jack hesitates, glancing at Madison. Madison's smirk fades. She shifts uneasily but says nothing. Emily realizes something she never allowed herself to see before. Madison may enjoy the drama, but even she didn't expect violence. Jack is acting alone now, fueled by something darker than jealousy. Emily backs toward the corner where the tool cabinets cast heavy shadows. She can't breathe. Her eyes sting. Her thoughts blur into one desperate truth. If she collapses here, Noah will fall with her. Jack steps forward. "Give me the password, Emily. Now." Her voice cracks. "No. Thanks for watching." "No?" He laughs softly, a sound too empty to be human. "You really think anyone will believe you?" Emily tightens her hold on Noah. Her legs shake. A tear slips down her cheek. Then she remembers Sarah across the street, the neighbor who once said, "If you ever feel unsafe, you come to me." Emily had never believed she'd actually need to scream for help, but now she has no choice. With every ounce of strength left inside her, Emily lifts her voice into the darkness. "Help! Please someone help me!" Her scream slices through the night. And from outside the garage, a faint sound answers tires on gravel, approaching fast. Someone is coming. Help was closer than she ever dared to hope for tonight. Morning sunlight spilled gently across the quiet New Jersey cul-de-sac, giving the neighborhood that polished, peaceful glow people posted on real estate websites. From the outside, the Carter home looked like the kind of place where nothing bad could happen. White siding, trimmed hedges, a neat driveway, a place made for stroller walks and weekend barbecues. A place where Emily once believed she would finally feel safe. Inside, however, safety was something she performed, not something she felt. Emily moved quietly through the kitchen, still sore from another restless night. Noah sat in his high chair, gnawing on a soft silicone teether, his round eyes following her every move. She touched his hair gently, forcing a smile just so he wouldn't see the worry in her face. On the counter sat an unopened Amazon box. Diapers, formula, wipes, everything for the baby, nothing for herself. She set a pot of oatmeal on the stove when the rhythmic tapping of footsteps came down the stairs. Jack appeared in a crisp shirt and tie, carrying the same quiet arrogance he brought home from Manhattan every evening. His iPhone lit up with notifications he hid from her, turning it face down with practiced ease. "Morning," Emily said softly. Jack didn't answer right away. He checked the time, then scanned the kitchen as though inspecting her work. "You're behind again," he muttered. "You know I need to leave early today." "I'll speed up," she whispered. He reached for his Starbucks cup, the one he always grabbed on the way home, so Emily wouldn't know he'd been out longer than he claimed. Emily slid Noah's bowl closer, trying not to flinch, when Jack sighed dramatically at the oatmeal not being ready yet. "I told you," he snapped, "if you organized your mornings better." "I'm trying," she said quickly. "Try harder." He didn't shout. Jack rarely shouted. It was his quiet disappointment that broke her down, his subtle reminders that she was failing at things she should be grateful to have. Emily set breakfast in front of him. Her hands shook slightly, something Jack noticed with a raised eyebrow. "You're nervous again. You really need to get that checked out." She nodded automatically. Agreeing was easier. Jack scrolled his phone, ignoring the baby, ignoring the wife standing 3 feet from him, ignoring everything except whatever world he lived in when he wasn't home. Emily watched him, trying to remember when he last kissed her good morning. She couldn't. When he finally finished eating, he stood, adjusting his tie with the confidence of a man who believed life owed him good things. Emily followed him to the door like always, handing him his briefcase. "Don't spend money today," he said casually. "We need to be careful." Emily almost laughed, but quietly, to herself. She remembered the new Mont Blanc pen that had arrived last week, the one he said was necessary for work. Her throat tightened, but she said nothing. Jack gave Noah a half glance. "Make sure he naps on time." "He will," she whispered. Then he walked out, the door clicking shut behind him. She listened to the sound of his Mercedes engine starting, watched through the window as he reversed down the driveway, perfectly put together, perfectly admired by anyone who didn't know the truth. When he disappeared around the corner, the house finally let out the breath it was holding. Emily sagged against the counter, lifting Noah into her arms. He pressed his cheek against her chest, sensing her sadness. "I'm okay," she whispered into his soft hair. "Mommy's okay." But as Noah cuddled closer, Emily felt that sinking ache return, the knowledge that something inside her marriage had shifted into a place she couldn't fix. And deep down, she feared the shift was only beginning. Because last night, before bed, she found a lipstick stain on Jack's collar. The late afternoon sun filtered through the living room curtains, casting soft stripes across the carpet where Noah lay kicking at a stuffed bear. Emily sat nearby, sorting tiny laundry onesies, socks the size of her thumb, bibs stained with sweet potato. All the small things that should have painted a picture of new mom joy. Instead, they only reminded her how alone she felt inside a house that looked perfect from the street. Jack had been coming home later every week. At first, it was traffic on the bridge, then meetings running long, and finally vague explanations that dissolved into silence when she asked for details. Emily learned not to ask. Questions made him irritated, and irritation led to nights where she barely breathed for fear of pushing him too far. When Jack did come home, he came home wrong. His tie loosened, his tone sharp, his eyes distracted. He barely looked at Noah, except to complain about the noise. Emily tried to soften every sound, to make peace out of chaos, to keep Jack from snapping. But peace didn't live here anymore. She noticed the smallest shifts first, the way he started locking his phone, the way he hid bank alerts, the way he stepped out onto the porch to answer calls at night. Each shift was like a hairline crack in a mirror, small, ignorable at first, until one day the reflection is too fractured to make sense of. That day began on a Tuesday. Jack came home early, surprising her. His shirt was wrinkled, tie missing, hair slightly disheveled, not the usual polished version of him that walked through the door. Emily froze. "Everything okay?" "Fine," he said too quickly. "Just a long day." He brushed past her to the bedroom. She waited until he shut the door, then exhaled shakily. Something in his voice, something in the way he moved, made a warning bell go off inside her, but she ignored it. Ignoring was easier. Later that night, he fell asleep fast. Emily reached for his dress shirt to toss it in the laundry and noticed the faintest scent of perfume, a scent she didn't own. Her stomach twisted. She held the fabric up to her face, hoping she was imagining it. She wasn't. That night, she stared at the ceiling while Noah slept in the bassinet beside her. The room felt small, suffocating, like the air had become thick with all the words she hadn't spoken. She tried to convince herself it was nothing, someone at work, a handshake, a hug, But deep down, an old wound reopened, one she tried to ignore for months. The next morning, she studied herself in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles, chapped lips, a face she barely recognized. She used to feel beautiful, even pregnant. Now she just looked tired, used, forgotten. She pressed a hand to her growing belly, whispering, "I'm still here." But the reflection didn't look convinced. At breakfast, Jack scolded her because the dishwasher wasn't unloaded. She apologized quickly, but something inside her cracked a little deeper. Later, he complained about her being overly emotional and needing to get a grip. He rolled his eyes when she tried to talk, brushed past her when she reached for him. That night, after he stormed out for a work dinner, Emily sat alone on the couch with Noah asleep on her chest. She felt the mirror inside her, her sense of self splintering piece by piece. She didn't know it yet, but the cracks would soon become sharp enough to cut. And someone else was about to bleed from them too. Emily didn't plan to see anything that night. She didn't plan to look at Jack's phone, or to confirm the fear that had been whispering to her for weeks. She only wanted to change the baby's diaper, and maybe sit down for 5 minutes without feeling like her chest was tightening. But fate has a way of placing truth directly in front of someone who's been trying too hard not to see it. It happened on an ordinary Wednesday evening. Jack had come home later than usual, claiming he had to meet a client near Wall Street. He smelled faintly of cologne, stronger than the one he normally wore, and his shirt buttons were misaligned, something he never did unless he was rushing. Emily noticed, but she said nothing. Silence had become her survival tool. After dinner, Jack went to shower. He left his iPhone on the dresser, screen still glowing from a message that had just come through. Emily didn't touch it. She only walked past to pick up Noah from the crib. But then another message lit up the screen. Curiosity didn't pull her, closer fear did. The kind of fear that grows quietly until one day it demands an answer. She glanced. Just one glance. The sender's name was saved as M. The message read, "Still thinking about you. Last night was perfect." Her breath stopped. Everything inside her went still, except Noah's soft wiggle in her arms. She read it once, twice, hoping she misinterpreted it. Hoping somehow M stood for a coworker named Mark or Michael. But no man texts another man that. Her knees weakened. She sat on the edge of the bed, holding Noah against her chest like a shield against a truth too sharp to face. Tears welled, but she blinked them back. Jack couldn't know she saw. Not yet. Not until she understood what was really happening. When Jack returned from the shower, he grabbed the phone instinctively, turning it face down without even checking it. Emily watched him, waiting, hoping he would offer some innocent explanation. But he didn't. He didn't even look at her. Later that night, once Noah slept and the house fell quiet, Emily gathered the courage to ask softly, "Jack, who's M?" He stiffened. "What?" "I saw the message when it popped up earlier. I wasn't snooping." Jack scoffed, rolling his eyes. "So now you're spying on me?" "That's pathetic, Emily. I was worried." "There's nothing to worry about. Don't make drama out of nothing." She tried again. But the message, he stepped closer, towering over her. "You're hormonal. You're tired. You're imagining things that aren't there." Gaslighting, smooth, practiced, cruel. Emily shrank back. "I'm not imagining." "Yes, you are, and it needs to stop." His tone was sharp enough to slice her doubt into pieces. She fell silent. That was what he wanted. When they went to bed, Jack turned away from her. His back felt like a cold wall. Emily lay awake, staring into the dark, replaying the message over and over. "Still thinking about you. Last night was perfect." She pressed a shaking hand to her mouth to stifle a sob. Noah stirred faintly in his sleep, and she reached for him with trembling fingers. He was the only soft thing left in her life. But in the deepest part of her heart, a painful truth began to take root. Jack didn't come home late because of work. He didn't snap at her because of stress. He didn't drift away by accident. He had someone else. And that someone wasn't going anywhere. Not yet. Jack's shift from cold to calculated was so gradual that Emily didn't notice the trap tightening until she was already inside it. After the text from M, she expected him to soften, to overcompensate, to try hiding the truth better. Instead, he became smoother, more careful with his tone, more strategic with his control. He didn't shout, he didn't threaten. He simply adjusted her life one rule at a time until the world outside their house became unreachable. It began with her mother. Emily loved their morning calls, 30 minutes of warmth and grounding before the day unraveled. But Jack started sighing every time he heard her voice through the speaker. "Your mom stresses you out," he said, offhand at first. "I've read about postpartum anxiety. You don't need negative energy." Emily believed him, or wanted to. So the calls became shorter, then fewer, then non-existent. Next came her friends. When Sarah from book club asked to stop by with coffee, Jack said the house wasn't clean enough to have people over. When her college friend invited her to a baby playdate, Jack reminded her she was too overwhelmed to handle outings. "Rest," he insisted. "Focus on the baby. People can wait." But people didn't wait. They drifted. Emily felt the distance growing, but didn't have the strength to fight it. Then came driving. Jack claimed she looked tired behind the wheel. "You're sleep-deprived." "It's dangerous for Noah," he murmured with a concerned frown. "Let me take the car for now." He took her keys. Weeks later, he took her access to the family account too, claiming budgeting would relieve pressure. He framed every restriction as care, every withdrawal as protection. And the more he controlled, the more Emily questioned her sanity. One afternoon, Noah was fussing, overtired and restless. Emily rocked him gently, humming. Jack walked in and immediately frowned. "Why is he crying? What did you do?" Her chest tightened. "He's just tired. I'm soothing him." "You're stressing him out." His tone was cold, confident, as if he knew her baby better than she did. Noah whimpered louder, sensing the tension. Emily lowered her gaze. "I'm doing my best." "Your best isn't good enough." The words sliced straight through her. Jack didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Shame did the violence for him. That evening, when Noah finally slept, Emily tried to explain how overwhelmed she felt. Jack leaned back on the couch, arms crossed. "You're imagining things again." "I'm not." "You are." His voice stayed even, almost gentle. "You need help, Emily. Real help. You're spiraling." She stared at him, breath shallow. Maybe she was emotional. Maybe she was overthinking. Maybe motherhood was breaking her more than she realized. But then she saw a flicker in his eyes, satisfaction. That was when she understood. He wanted her to doubt herself. That doubt gave him power. Still, she said nothing. Silence had become automatic. Later, as Jack scrolled on his phone, smiling faintly at a message she pretended not to see, Emily sat alone in the dim nursery, watching Noah sleep. The room felt too quiet, too small. She pressed a hand to her belly, trembling. Something was wrong. Something was deeply, dangerously wrong. And Jack was counting on her to stay quiet long enough for him to tighten the cage completely. Emily first met Madison on a Friday evening, when Jack insisted they attend his firm's networking mixer in Manhattan. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours the night before, and Noah had been unusually fussy. Still, Jack pressured her to dress up, smile, and stop looking tired before they left. The mixer was hosted in a glass-walled lounge overlooking the city lights, filled with people who looked polished and alert in ways Emily no longer felt. Jack guided her from group to group without introducing her properly, as if she were an inconvenient shadow rather than his pregnant wife there. Emily first noticed Madison across the room, laughing too loudly at something Jack said. She was polished, confident, and rested in a way only someone untouched by sleepless nights and fear could be. When Jack waved her over, Madison's smile widened, but her eyes stayed icy and assessing that night. "You must be Emily," Madison said, her tone sweetened just enough to sting. "Jack talks about you, sometimes." Emily forced a polite smile, though her chest tightened. Madison stood a little closer to Jack than necessary, resting her hand lightly on his sleeve as if claiming territory Emily didn't realize. Jack seemed energized around Madison in a way Emily hadn't seen in months. His posture straightened, his laugh deepened, and he leaned in whenever Madison spoke. Emily watched the exchange with a hollow feeling, as though someone had scooped out the center of her chest and left her standing there. When Jack stepped away to speak with a colleague, Madison leaned closer to Emily, her perfume sharp and unfamiliar. "He's been under so much pressure," she murmured, sounding rehearsed. "Sometimes men need understanding." Emily blinked, unsure whether the statement was sympathy or warning, and unsure which one frightened her more. Jack returned before Emily could respond, placing a possessive hand on Madison's lower back, a gesture so intimate it jolted Emily like a slap. He removed it quickly, but the damage was done. Something unspoken crackled between them, a secret Emily had not been invited to but was already suffering from. On the drive home, the Manhattan skyline glowed outside the window, but Emily barely saw it. Jack's silence pressed against her like a weight. Whenever she tried to speak, he tightened his grip on the steering wheel, jaw clenched. She realized the evening had confirmed something he wanted hidden tonight. When they pulled into the driveway, Noah stirred awake in his car seat, fussing softly. Emily reached for him, grateful for the distraction. Jack, however, stared straight ahead for several seconds before stepping out without offering to help. The message was clear. Whatever happened with Madison wasn't up for discussion. Inside, after Noah fell asleep, Emily stood at the bathroom mirror under harsh yellow light. Her reflection looked worn, almost transparent, as if her spirit were slipping out of frame. She remembered the way Jack's eyes followed Madison, and a quiet truth settled into her bones that night, she learned. Emily climbed into bed beside Jack, though the space between them felt like an ocean. She placed a protective hand on her belly, sensing the tiny life inside her, responding to her tension. She whispered a small prayer into the dark, one she never imagined she would need. Strength tonight. She didn't know it then, but the encounter with Madison marked the moment her life began to split in two. The part where she tried to believe Jack still loved her, and the part where she sensed something far more dangerous was unfolding. And the truth would arrive sooner than she. The house had gone quiet after dinner, the kind of heavy silence that presses against the walls and squeezes the air from a room. Emily moved mechanically, washing bottles, wiping the counter, bouncing Noah against her shoulder as he drifted toward sleep. Jack sat in the living room, staring at his phone, the cold blue glow sharpening the angles of his face. He barely acknowledged her presence anymore, except to criticize or correct. It happened on a Thursday, ordinary, forgettable, the sort of day no one expects to become a turning point. Emily found a past-due notice tucked inside the stack of mail. Confused, she checked the envelope twice. The electric bill, past due. That didn't make sense. Jack always insisted on handling their finances. He never let her see the accounts, claiming it complicated her thinking. But he always paid the bills. At least she thought he did. Tentatively, she walked into the living room. Jack, why is the electric bill past due? He didn't look up. What are you talking about? She held out the notice. Did something happen? Jack snatched it, scanned it quickly, then tossed it onto the coffee table with a scoff. You probably mixed it up with something else. You're always doing that. No, I am sure it was in today's mail. He exhaled loudly. Emily, you're imagining problems. Again? His dismissal scraped something raw inside her. She swallowed hard. I'm not imagining it, it's right there. He stood abruptly. Are you calling me irresponsible? No, You just what? He stepped closer, towering over her. You think I'm lying? You think I can't manage my own home? No, Emily whispered, clutching Noah tighter. I didn't say that, but you implied it. His voice dropped, dangerously calm. And I'm tired of your paranoia. The accusation stung. I'm not paranoid. I'm trying to understand. Jack moved fast, too fast. His hand shot out, shoving her shoulder with sudden, shocking force. Emily stumbled backward, her heel catching on the rug. She slammed against the edge of the doorway. Noah jerked awake, his small body trembling as he burst into panicked cries. For a moment, the world froze. Emily's breath vanished. Her arm throbbed where she hit the wall. Jack stared at her, eyes wide, as if surprised by his own strength. You shouldn't have pushed me, he muttered, voice trembling with anger he refused to own. You were getting hysterical. Emily blinked, dazed. I didn't push you. Yes, you did. His tone sharpened, turning reality inside out. You stepped at me. You know how you get when you're emotional. Confusion and fear twisted in her stomach. She opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. Noah cried harder, tiny hands gripping her shirt. That mattered more than any argument. Jack rubbed his forehead dramatically. Look what you made me do. Now you've stressed the baby out. Emily felt her heart crack. She wanted to scream, to tell him the truth that he had scared Noah, that he had hurt her, that she wasn't imagining anything. But she stayed silent, shaking, holding her crying son while Jack resumed scrolling on his phone, pretending nothing had happened. Later, when she finally laid Noah in his crib, Emily slipped into the bathroom. She lifted her sleeve, revealing a forming bruise on her upper arm where she'd hit the doorframe. Her reflection blurred through tears. Carefully, she raised her phone and took a photo. A small click, a tiny act of rebellion. Then she deleted the picture immediately, terrified Jack might find it. But the image stayed with her, the bruise, the tears, the fear. And deep within her, something shifted. Because the first shove is never the last. The next afternoon felt unusually heavy, as if the house itself remembered the shove, even if Jack pretended it never happened. Emily tried to move through the day without trembling, but every sound startled her, the creak of the floorboards, the vibration of Jack's incoming texts, even the soft whir of the baby monitor. Noah sensed the tension too. He clung to her shirt, refusing to nap unless she held him close. By late afternoon, Emily stepped onto the front porch for air, bouncing Noah gently while trying not to think about the bruise forming beneath her sleeve. She wore a long cardigan to hide it, but she felt it with every movement. The sky had softened into early evening gold, and neighborhood lawns shimmered under sprinklers. It should have been peaceful. Instead, the quiet reminded her how trapped she felt inside her own life. Across the street, Sarah Miller was unloading groceries from her trunk. Emily had always liked Sarah, a warm woman with tired eyes that somehow still sparkled when she laughed. Their conversations had been polite and brief until now. But today, something inside Emily tugged her forward. Sarah noticed her immediately. "Hey, Emily, you okay?" The words were casual, but the look in Sarah's eyes wasn't. It was searching, gentle, recognizing. Emily forced a smile. "Just tired." Sarah nodded, then hesitated. "Do you want to come over for a minute? I just made a fresh pot of coffee." Emily almost said no reflex, habit, fear. Jack would be angry if she wasn't home when he returned. But Noah whimpered softly against her shoulder, and something inside her cracked open. "Sure," she whispered. Inside Sarah's kitchen, warmth wrapped around her like a blanket she hadn't felt in months. Kids' drawings lined the fridge, scribbles of suns, cats, and crooked houses. A soft radio hummed in the background. It was the first room Emily had stepped into in a long time that didn't feel dangerous. Sarah poured her coffee and placed a muffin on a small plate. "Sit. You look like you need a minute." Emily sat carefully, as though she might shatter if she moved too fast. Noah relaxed in her lap, chewing his fist. Sarah watched them with a look that held too much understanding. After a quiet moment, Sarah spoke softly. "I used to look like that." Emily blinked. "Like what?" "Like someone trying to keep her whole world from falling apart by staying quiet." The words hit too close, too precisely. Tears prickled behind Emily's eyes, but she blinked them back. "Jack's just stressed. Work has been hard." Sarah shook her head gently. "I lived that story. Different man, same script." She paused. "He shoved you, didn't he?" Emily froze. Her breath caught. Her fingers tightened around Noah. She didn't know how Sarah saw it, but she suddenly felt both exposed and held. Sarah continued softly, "You don't have to tell me details. I've been there. You don't deserve it." Emily swallowed hard. Her throat burned. "I'm fine, really." "No, honey," Sarah said. "You're surviving. That's not the same thing." Emily looked down at the tiny hand gripping her sweater. Noah cooed innocently, unaware of the storm surrounding him. Emily's heart twisted. Sarah leaned forward. "Listen, if you ever feel unsafe, ever, you come here. I don't care what time it is." Emily nodded, though her voice failed her. As she prepared to leave, Sarah gently touched her arm right where the bruise hid beneath fabric. Emily flinched involuntarily. Sarah said nothing, just squeezed her hand with a silent promise, "You're not alone." Emily carried that warmth home with her, but as she stepped inside, the air shifted again, cold, watching, suffocating. Because Jack's car was already in the driveway, and he never came home this early without a reason. Jack's unexpected early return felt like a door slamming shut inside Emily's chest. She stepped into the living room with Noah asleep against her shoulder, trying to keep her breath steady. Jack stood near the window, still in his work clothes, phone in hand, jaw clenched. He didn't smile. He didn't even pretend. He simply watched her with that unsettling, unreadable expression he'd started wearing more often. "You weren't home," he said calmly, too calmly. I was across the street, Emily whispered, just for a few minutes. His eyes flicked to Noah. You took him outside without telling me? I didn't think. That's right, Jack cut in. You didn't think. He brushed past her, the faint scent of perfume following him, Madison's perfume. Emily swallowed hard, stepping into the hallway where the shadows felt safer. Jack's criticism faded into background noise because something inside her had quietly begun to shift. Sarah's words echoed in her ears. You're surviving, not living. That night, after Noah finally drifted to sleep, Emily sat on the edge of the bed. Her arms still throbbed from the shove days earlier. Jack was downstairs, pacing while talking into his phone, voice low and fast, angry, even. She couldn't hear the words, but she didn't need to. She knew who he was talking to. Emily looked at her phone, trembling. For months, she had swallowed everything, buried everything, convinced herself things would get better. But now, for the first time, she wondered what would happen if they didn't. If Jack's temper kept growing, if the next shove was harder, if she fell, if Noah fell with her. Her breath shook. She opened her camera. Slowly, carefully, she lifted her sleeve and photographed the bruise. This time, she didn't delete it. She created a hidden folder and labeled it with something Jack would never question: receipts. Her heart pounded, terrified he might appear at any second. But she kept going. She screenshot bank statements she'd secretly accessed on her old MacBook Air. Transactions didn't lie: dinners, hotel charges, ride shares at midnight, always in Manhattan. She opened the audio app. Hands trembling, she hit record. Jack's voice from downstairs traveled faintly through the vents, sharp and impatient. She recorded 30 seconds, proof of tone, proof of rage, proof she wasn't imagining the way he spoke to her. When she saved the file, something inside her flickered awake. Not hope, not yet, but a spark of self-protection she thought motherhood had buried. Later, Jack came upstairs, still simmering. Did you do anything productive today? Emily kept her gaze down. I took care of Noah. And? That's it? He scoffed. You know other women manage more than one task a day, right? The insult hit harder than usual, but this time she didn't crumble. Her mind replayed the click of each photo she'd taken. Jack watched her closely, as if sensing the shift. Don't start getting dramatic, Emily. She nodded, pretending obedience. He walked away, satisfied. When he finally fell asleep, she moved to the bathroom with her phone. She typed a new email address, one he didn't know existed, and slowly began uploading everything. Each file felt like a tiny lifeline, a step toward a future she couldn't yet imagine but desperately needed. She pressed send, her breath trembled. For the first time, she wasn't entirely powerless. But power always comes with risk, and Jack was only days away from discovering what she had done. The storm broke on a night that had felt wrong from the moment Emily woke up. Noah had been restless, clinging to her shirt all morning as if sensing something lurking beneath the quiet. By evening, the house felt unnaturally still, the kind of stillness that comes before a door slams, or a voice rises, or a truth finally tears its way to the surface. Jack came home smelling like a cologne Emily didn't own. He didn't bother greeting her. He tossed his keys on the counter, loosened his tie, and grabbed a beer with the kind of practiced aggression that told her the night was already ruined. Emily kept her voice soft. Long day? Jack didn't answer. He simply stared at her, slow, assessing, irritated, as if he were trying to find a flaw he hadn't noticed before. Emily swallowed. Did something happen at work? He smirked, bitter and cold. Work is fine. My wife, however, he shook his head. My wife is becoming a problem. Her pulse quickened. Jack, I don't understand. Oh, you do. He stepped closer, his voice low. I know what you've been doing. Her breath caught. What do you mean? He held up her phone unlocked, screen glowing. She didn't even feel her legs when they nearly gave out. You left it charging downstairs, he said. Not very smart for someone with secrets. Emily's stomach dropped. He had gone through everything. He pulled up her hidden folder. Pictures of your arm, audio files, emails to yourself. His laugh was sharp. You think these make you safe? She reached for Noah, who sat in his playpen, chewing a toy, unaware of the storm building around him. Jack, stop. Please just listen. No, he snapped, stepping so close she felt the heat of his anger. You're done talking. You think you're going to ruin my life? You think anyone will believe a woman who can't even get through the day without crying? Emily's throat tightened. I'm not trying to ruin you. I'm trying to protect. Protect what? He grabbed her wrist. You want to play games? You want to threaten me with evidence? I never threatened you. You didn't have to. I saw it. He leaned in, voice cruel and quiet. You think you're getting out of this marriage with our son? You think a judge will hand you custody when I show them what you've been doing? When I tell them you're unstable? The room swayed. I'm not unstable. Then why do you cry every day? He hissed. Why can't you keep the house clean? Why do you forget everything? Why can't you keep him quiet? He pointed at Noah, whose face began to scrunch with confusion and fear. Jack's next words cut through Emily like a blade. I'll take him from you. Do you hear me? I'll take Noah. And the baby you're carrying, that one won't save you either. Her heartbeat shattered. You can't. Oh, I can, Jack whispered. Because I look stable. I look successful. I look like the parent a court would trust. And you? You look broken. Tears welled, hot and helpless. She shook her head violently. You can't take my children. They're all I have. Jack smiled a sick, victorious smile. Then you should have thought about that before you betrayed me. Noah whimpered, sensing her terror. Emily scooped him into her arms, stepping back as her breath came in short, sharp bursts. Jack straightened, taking one slow step toward her. Delete everything, Emily. Every file, every email, or I swear you'll lose them. Her world blurred. Her pulse thundered. And for the first time, she realized Jack wasn't just angry. He was fully capable of destroying her life, piece by piece, starting with her children. Emily barely slept after Jack's threat, her mind racing through memories, fears, and every fragile plan she had imagined tonight. By morning, her body felt hollow, but she moved automatically, feeding Noah, folding blankets, pretending nothing inside her was collapsing. Jack acted normal again, which frightened her more than anger, because calmness meant calculation, and calculation usually meant danger today. She stayed quiet through breakfast, watching him leave for work without a glance back, holding Noah until the door clicked. When the house settled, Emily felt her legs shaking, the bruise beneath her sleeve like a warning she could ignore. She remembered Sarah's gentle voice, offering safety without pressure, and something inside her whispered that reaching out again might save. Noah fussed restlessly, sensing her anxiety, and Emily rocked him slowly while debating whether today was the day she sought. The decision formed quietly when Noah lifted his small hand to her chin, as if begging her to protect them. She placed Noah in the stroller and crossed the street, her heart pounding harder with each step toward Sarah's familiar porch. Sarah answered immediately, concern deepening the lines on her face as soon as she saw Emily's trembling hands the handle. They sat at the kitchen table again, sunlight warming the room, but Emily felt cold as she described Jack's threat. Sarah listened without interrupting, her eyes soft but steady, the way someone looks when they refuse to let another woman. When Emily mentioned the photos, Sarah leaned closer and told her to back up everything somewhere Jack could never reach. Sarah opened a drawer, handing Emily a small notepad filled with hotline numbers, legal aid contacts, and the name of counselor. Emily stared at the list, overwhelmed, realizing someone believed her, without demanding proof, without accusing her of exaggeration, without twisting. Tears finally slipped free, not from weakness but relief, because for the first time in months she didn't feel invisible. Sarah touched her hand gently, promising she would help her build a plan to stay safe, matter how unpredictable Jack's temper. Emily nodded, clutching the notepad as if it were a lifeline, knowing this moment marked the beginning of something she feared. Before she left, Sarah insisted Emily memorize her number, her door code, and the promise that no cry for help. Emily stepped back onto the sidewalk, breathing steadier, holding Noah's stroller with new determination, unaware Jack's suspicion was already sharpening. She pushed the stroller toward home, repeating Sarah's guidance silently, trying to convince herself she possessed strength she had forgotten. Still, every step reminded her Jack believed control ensured loyalty, and any independence threatened the image he guarded more fiercely. Emily reached the front door trembling, praying he wouldn't notice her absence, rehearsing excuses she hated, yet relying on them. Inside, the air felt colder, pressing against her skin, reminding her Jack's house had become a cage carefully crafted from fear. She settled Noah upstairs, holding him longer than usual, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep but needed him. Her heart pounded when she heard Jack's footsteps downstairs, each one heavy, deliberate, hinting he suspected her confidence had grown. She inhaled slowly, remembering the notepad, the resources, the truth Sarah offered, feeling the first fragile thread of courage stitching. But courage alone wouldn't protect her, especially now that Jack sensed resistance, a shift he would challenge ruthlessly if she wasn't. Emily braced herself, stepping into the hallway, knowing her growing awareness threatened Jack's control, and threatening his control had triggered. She exhaled shakily, gripping the banister as footsteps approached, unaware this small rebellion marked another step toward the explosive confrontation. Jack's coworkers often said he had a talent for strategy, but they never knew how dark that talent could turn when he felt cornered. The day after Emily visited Sarah, he arrived at his Manhattan office, looking unusually tense, jaw tight, eyes scanning every face as if hunting for an enemy. He wasn't worried about clients, or deadlines, or market dips. He was worried about Emily, worried she finally realized he was losing control of her. Madison noticed immediately. She always did. She sauntered into his glass-walled office wearing a fitted blazer, a little too pleased with herself, holding 2 iced coffees. She stopped short when she saw his expression. "Rough morning?" she asked lightly. Jack didn't bother pretending. "She's hiding something." Madison's smile faded. "Emily? She's acting different. Defiant." He pinched the bridge of his nose. "She talked to the neighbor. That woman knows something." There it was, the flicker of fear in Madison's eyes. She wasn't as confident as she pretended to be. She'd always believed she controlled the affair, that she could shape Jack into the man she pictured. But lately, she'd begun to see the edges of his cruelty, the parts he never showed her before. "What exactly did she do?" Madison asked carefully. Jack lowered his voice. "She tried to trap me. She recorded things, took pictures of herself." Madison's breath caught. "You're kidding." He slammed his fist lightly against the desk, not enough to break skin, but enough to make her flinch. "Do I look like I'm kidding?" She backed up a step, shaking her head. "Jack, if she goes to the police—" "She won't," he snapped. "Not if we act first." Madison hesitated. "What do you mean, act first?" Jack leaned forward, voice low, eyes burning with the same cold calculation he used in the boardroom. "We flip the narrative. We make her look unstable." Madison swallowed hard. "I don't know if—" "She's emotional, tired, paranoid. A new mother with no support system? Courts love that story." He smirked. "We say she's been acting erratic. We say she threatened me. We say she's been neglecting the baby." Madison looked away, stomach twisting. "That's extreme." Jack stepped closer, trapping her between the desk and the wall of windows. "Do you think I'll let her blow up my life? Do you think I'll lose everything because she's having a breakdown?" Madison forced a smile, trying to calm him. "No, of course not. I'm just saying we need to be careful." Jack grabbed her chin, tilting her face upward. "Careful is for people who have something to lose. I'm not losing anything." Madison stared at him, suddenly unsure whether she was still on the winning side. But fear tied her tongue. She nodded. "Okay, so what's the plan?" Jack released her, pacing now. "Tonight, I'll push her. See if she snaps. Maybe she'll scream. Maybe she'll throw something. Doesn't matter. I'll record it. Then we have proof she's unstable. And if she doesn't break?" Madison whispered. Jack's smile was chilling. Everyone breaks eventually. Madison turned to the window, watching the traffic below, wondering how she'd gotten herself tangled in something she no longer understood. She thought she was having an affair with a flawed but charming man. Instead, she'd stepped into a storm she couldn't escape. "Just make sure she doesn't leave the house," Jack added. "I need control of the situation." Madison nodded hollowly. Neither of them knew that Emily, at that very moment, was backing up her files again. Neither knew a quiet shift had already begun. Neither knew the plan they were crafting would soon explode in their faces. And when it did, the fallout would destroy everything Jack thought he controlled. Emily sensed something was wrong the moment Jack walked through the door earlier than usual, too early, too quiet, too focused. He didn't glance at Noah playing on the rug. He didn't greet her. He simply scanned the room like someone searching for a threat. His eyes landed on her phone, charging on the counter. Before she could move, he snatched it. "Jack, wait!" He held up a hand, silencing her. His thumbs moved quickly, unlocking the device with disturbing ease. Her stomach twisted. She knew she should have changed the password. She knew leaving the phone unattended was dangerous. But she'd been exhausted, too exhausted to predict this moment. His expression shifted as he scrolled through her files. First confusion, then irritation, then fury. "What is this?" he demanded. Emily stepped back. "Give me my phone, Jack." He laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. "Your phone? Cute. Everything in this house belongs to me, including this." He turned the screen toward her. The hidden folder was open. Receipts, photos, audio, emails to herself. The breath left her lungs. She felt the room tilt. Noah sensed the tension and crawled toward her, whining softly. Jack's voice dropped into that low, dangerous tone she'd come to fear. "So you are trying to ruin me." "I'm trying to protect myself," Emily whispered. "From what?" He stepped toward her. "From reality? From your imagination?" "From you," she said before she had the strength to stop herself. That single sentence ignited him. Jack's face contorted, and he slammed the phone onto the table so hard it bounced. Emily grabbed Noah, clutching him to her chest. Madison stood in the doorway, as if she'd been waiting for a cue. She crossed her arms, leaning against the frame. "I told you she'd pull something like this." Emily's voice cracked. "You shouldn't be here." Madison shrugged. "Jack needed support. Clearly he's not getting any from you." Jack grabbed Emily's arm, not hard enough to bruise yet, but hard enough to make her knees weaken. "Explain these recordings. Explain why you think you get to spy on me." She forced herself to meet his eyes. "Because you shoved me. Because you threatened me. Because you're cheating." Jack scoffed. "There is zero proof of any of that." Emily shook her head. "I have proof." He leaned in so close she felt his breath on her cheek. "Not anymore. You're going to delete every file, every photo, every email, and you're going to do it right now." Madison stepped forward, her voice sharp. "If she doesn't, she could ruin everything. Your job, your custody case." Emily's blood ran cold. "Custody case? What custody case?" Jack smirked, and her body turned to ice. "Oh, Emily, you think I'd let you walk away with my son? You think a court would give a newborn and a baby to someone who can't control her emotions?" She shook her head violently. "You can't take my children. Watch me." Jack reached for her phone again, but Emily reacted first. She grabbed it, stumbling backward, heart thundering. Noah began to cry. Madison blocked the doorway, trapping her between them. Panic rose in Emily's throat like a scream she couldn't release. Jack's voice fell to a whisper. "We're going to the garage." Emily froze. "Why?" "Because I'm not having this conversation inside the house," he said calmly. "You're going to delete everything, and no one is leaving until you do." Madison nodded toward the hallway. "Go on, Emily." Emily's pulse pounded in her ears. She clutched Noah, who cried harder, sensing danger. Each step she took toward the garage felt like walking deeper into a nightmare she could no longer wake from. She didn't know what awaited her behind that door. She only knew one thing. Whatever happened next would change everything. The garage door stood at the end of the hallway like the entrance to a darker world, a place where light didn't reach and truth couldn't hide. Emily clutched Noah so tightly his tiny fingers dug into her collar, but she didn't loosen her grip. She couldn't. Not when Jack's shadow stretched behind her, long and threatening, swallowing the narrow hallway whole. "Keep moving," Jack ordered, his voice terrifyingly calm. Calm meant intent. Calm meant he had already decided what would happen tonight. Madison followed close behind him, arms crossed, heels clicking sharply on the hardwood floor. She wasn't smirking now. Something about the tension in the air made even her uneasy. But she said nothing, not to stop him, not to protect Emily, just to stay on the side she thought was safer. Emily reached the garage door and hesitated. Her breath fogged the small window pane. "Jack, please. We can talk in the living room." "No." His hand clamped onto the back of her arm. "The garage." "Why?" Jack didn't answer. He pushed the door open, and a wave of cool, stale air rushed out. The overhead bulb flickered before stabilizing into a harsh, yellow glow that made everything look sharper. The cabinets, the tools, the concrete floor that still held oil stains, the silver Mercedes that reflected distorted versions of them. Emily stepped inside, legs trembling. The moment she crossed the threshold, Jack hit the wall button. The garage door rumbled downward, sealing them in with a final metallic thud that echoed through her bones. Noah whimpered, burying his face in her chest. Emily whispered a shaky hush, even though she herself was seconds from breaking. Jack pointed toward the workbench. "Put the phone down." She held it tighter. "I won't delete anything." "You will." He stepped forward, voice low, deadly, "because you don't understand what you're playing with." Madison positioned herself between Emily and the door leading back inside the house, effectively blocking any escape. "Just do what he says," she muttered. "You're making this worse." Emily's heart thudded painfully. "Please, I'm pregnant. Noah is scared. Don't do this." Jack's jaw tightened. "You should have thought about that before trying to sabotage me." "I wasn't sabotaging you," she whispered. "I was protecting myself." "Liar." His voice snapped like a whip. "You want to ruin my career, my reputation? You think you can take my son?" Emily backed into a shelf, her body trembling. "I never said that. You didn't have to." Jack stepped closer, close enough she could see the wild flicker in his eyes. "Delete it." "No." Jack's expression hardened. "Emily, this is your last chance." She shook her head, breath breaking. "I won't delete proof of what you did." Before she could brace herself, Jack lunged at her, grabbing her wrist and twisting it until she cried out. Noah screamed, clinging to her shirt, terrified. Emily tried to pull away, but the strength difference was impossible. "Give me the phone," Jack snarled. "Stop," Emily screamed. "You're hurting me." Madison shifted uncomfortably. "Jack, maybe we should slow down." "Stay out of it," he barked, tightening his grip. Emily gasped as the pain shot up her arm. The phone nearly slipped from her fingers. She fought the urge to collapse, clinging to Noah with her other arm as if he were the only anchor she had left in the world. Jack yanked harder. "Delete it." And then, a sound, a distant sound, barely audible over Noah's cries. A voice. Someone outside. Emily froze, eyes wide, because through the thin walls of the garage, she heard footsteps on gravel approaching fast. Someone was out there, someone who had heard her scream. For a split second, the footsteps outside the garage felt like a miracle, but the moment passed too quickly for hope to settle. Jack didn't notice the sound at first. He was too focused on prying the phone from Emily's hand, his grip tightening with each desperate second. Noah sobbed uncontrollably, tiny fists clutching her shirt as if he understood his mother was fighting for both of them. Emily tried to twist away, but Jack jerked her back, his face inches from hers. "Stop fighting me," he growled. "You think anyone will believe you over me? You think crying louder makes you right?" She gasped as pain shot through her wrist. "Jack, please, you're hurting." "I'm teaching you a lesson," he hissed. "You don't get to betray me and walk away." Something inside, Emily snapped. The fear that had silenced her for months broke beneath the weight of something stronger, pure, primal protection. She pulled Noah tighter against her chest, tears streaking down her face. Her voice trembled, but she forced it upward, outward, louder than she ever had. "Help!" she screamed. "Please, someone help us." Jack froze. Madison flinched. Noah wailed. For a moment, the world seemed to stop until a distant dog barked. Then another. Then the unmistakable slam of a car door outside. Jack's eyes widened. "What did you do?" "I didn't." Emily could barely breathe. "I didn't do anything." He grabbed her arm again, furious now, frantic. "You think someone's going to save you? No one's coming. No one ever comes." But he was wrong. Across the street, Sarah had been washing dishes when she heard the first muffled scream. It wasn't the kind of sound someone imagined. It wasn't angry or dramatic. It was terrified. It was the cry of a mother fighting for her life. Sarah dropped the sponge, ran to the window, and saw the faint shadows moving violently behind the small garage window. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911, voice shaking but steady. Inside the garage, Emily's world was collapsing. Jack shoved her toward the workbench, trying to grab the phone again. "Give it to me, or I swear." A new sound cut through his threat, gravel shifting under heavy boots. More than one pair. Close. Madison stiffened. "Jack, someone's outside." Jack's head snapped toward the garage door. His breathing turned jagged. "Don't say a word," he warned Emily, spit flying with the intensity of his whisper. "If you say one word, I'll—" A firm knock shook the garage door. "Police, open up." Emily's knees nearly buckled. She clutched Noah as a sob of relief escaped her, but Jack spun toward her with feral rage. "You did this," he snarled. "You're destroying everything." The officers knocked again, louder. We heard screaming, "Open the door, now." Jack's breathing turned shallow. His world, the one built on manipulation, intimidation, and control, was cracking open too fast for him to stop it. "Not a word," he warned again, pointing at her like she was the criminal. "You stay quiet, you hear me?" Emily shook uncontrollably, her back pressed against the cold metal shelf. But when she heard Noah's fragile cry, something steadied inside her. She wasn't just a terrified wife anymore. She was a mother, and mothers don't stay silent when their children are in danger. So before Jack could turn back toward the door, Emily did the bravest thing she'd ever done. She screamed again, louder, clearer, undeniable. "Help! We're in here! Please help us!" The officers outside shouted instructions. Metal clanged, tools scattered. Jack lunged toward her, and then the garage door shuddered violently as someone began to break it open. Outside the garage, the night erupted into movement. Red and blue lights washed across the quiet New Jersey street, reflecting off windows and casting long streaks of color over the pavement. Neighbors peeked through blinds. Dogs barked from fenced yards. And in the center of it all, 2 police cruisers and a K-9 unit pulled up with urgent precision. Sarah ran down her driveway barefoot, waving frantically. "She's in there. Emily's in the garage," she screamed. She screamed for help. Officer Ramirez stepped out first, steady and calm. Behind him, Detective Daniel Brooks exited his unmarked SUV, his K-9 partner Rex leaping out beside him with controlled focus. The German Shepherd's ears were pricked, nose lifted, sensing distress. Daniel placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder. "How long ago did you hear the scream?" "Just minutes," she said, voice breaking. "And she has the baby with her." She said, "Don't hurt us, please. Just get her out." Daniel's eyes hardened. "Stay back. We'll handle it." Inside the garage, Emily pressed herself against the wall, shielding Noah as Jack paced in a growing panic. Madison hovered near the door to the house, her earlier confidence shattered. Jack hissed, "Say another word and I swear." But the pounding on the garage door cut him off. "Police, open the door." Jack's face twisted. "Don't you dare speak." Emily held Noah tighter. "Please, stop," she whispered. Another hit against the door rattled the metal. Rex barked sharply, the deep, commanding sound of a trained protector. Jack froze. "They brought a dog?" Madison's voice trembled. "Jack, we should just let them in. This is getting out of control." "Shut up," he snapped. Outside, Daniel pressed his ear to the steel panel. He heard the crying, sharp, frightened, unmistakably an infant. His expression darkened. He shouted, "Emily, if you can hear me, we're going to get you out. Stay where you are and keep the baby close." Something inside Emily cracked open at the sound of her name, spoken with authority and concern. Relief surged through her. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Noah whimpered softly against her collarbone. Jack lunged forward, fury exploding. "Don't answer him." But it was too late. Emily's voice, thin but steady, pushed out of her. "We're here. Please help us." Daniel heard it. That was enough. "Ramirez, we're breaching." Rex barked again, muscles coiled. Officers positioned themselves around the side access door. With coordinated force, they rammed the panel once, twice, until the frame buckled. Cold air rushed inside as the door gave way, splintering under the pressure. The moment the officers appeared, Jack stepped back, hands half raised, eyes wide with something between fear and rage. Madison backed into a corner, shaking. Rex sprinted forward on command, placing himself between Emily and Jack with practiced precision, teeth bared in a controlled warning. Emily flinched at first, then realized he was protecting her. Daniel stepped inside next, weapon drawn but steady. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" Emily couldn't speak. She nodded through tears, clutching Noah. Jack barked, "This is insane. She's hysterical. She's lying." Daniel didn't look at him. "Sir, step back and keep your hands where I can see them." Jack hesitated. Rex growled low, deep, lethal. Jack lifted his hands. Emily sagged against the wall, trembling violently, breath coming in gasps she couldn't control. Noah cried against her chest, overwhelmed by the chaos. Daniel lowered his weapon slowly, kneeling beside them. "You're safe now," he said gently. "We've got you. You're safe." Emily swallowed a sob, pressing her cheek to Noah's hair. For the first time in months, she believed it might be true. The moment the access door buckled, the entire garage seemed to inhale sharply, as if the house itself had been holding its breath for months. Cold night air rushed inside, mixing with the tension thick enough to choke on. Jack stumbled backward, stunned that the fortress he believed he controlled could be breached so easily. Madison pressed against the wall, shaking, mascara streaking down her cheeks. But Emily didn't look at either of them. Her eyes locked on the officers flooding into the garage, on Rex standing guard in front of her, on Detective Daniel Brooks rising from his crouch with calm assurance. For the first time in a long time, she felt the faintest flicker of safety. Officer Ramirez shouted, "Sir, step away from your wife and child, hands where we can see them." Jack's chest heaved. "This is a misunderstanding. She's unstable. She needs help, not police." Daniel's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "We heard her scream. We heard the baby. We're not leaving without talking to her." Emily clutched Noah so tightly her arms ached. His cries had turned into hiccuping whimpers, tiny fists gripping her sweater. She pressed her cheek to his hair, whispering soothing nonsense through shaking lips. Jack took a single step forward, hands lifted but eyes wild. "Emily, tell them you overreacted." She flinched. Even now, he tried to control her words. Her breath caught in her chest, fear tightening its grip. For a moment, one fragile, terrified moment, she wondered whether she could speak, whether her voice would come out at all. But then Rex snarled, sharp and deep, planting himself between her and Jack like a living shield. Something about that sound cracked the silence inside her. Emily raised her head. Her voice came out small but steady. "He hurt me." Jack spun toward her. "Emily." She squeezed Noah closer. "He shoved me. He grabbed me. He threatened to take my children." Daniel stepped fully between them now, blocking Jack's line of sight. "Ma'am, do you feel unsafe?" Tears slid down Emily's cheeks. She nodded. "Yes." That was all Daniel needed. He motioned to Ramirez. "Cuff him." Jack erupted. "You can't. I didn't touch her tonight. She's making this up. Check the garage camera. She screams all the time for no reason." Madison's breath hitched. Her eyes flew wide. She hadn't known he installed a camera. Ramirez moved toward Jack. "Sir, turn around and place your hands behind your back." Jack backed up, panicked. "No, you don't understand. She's been trying to sabotage me. She's mentally unstable. His words stopped abruptly when Rex advanced another step, growling low. Madison slid down the wall, covering her ears, whispering, "Oh my God, oh my God." Emily tried to breathe. Her knees weakened. Daniel noticed and caught her elbow gently. "You're all right. You're safe. Safe." The word felt foreign, heavy, almost unreal. As Ramirez secured the cuffs, Jack thrashed once, nearly losing his footing. "This isn't over. I'll fix this. I'll fix her." Daniel's jaw tightened. "That's enough." The officers led Jack toward the opening in the broken door. Flashing lights washed over his stunned face, illuminating a man realizing perhaps for the first time that the world no longer bent to his will. Neighbors had gathered on lawns, watching silently as he was guided into the back of a police car. A soft whimper pulled Emily's attention downward. Noah blinked up at her, exhausted, clutching her torn sweater. She kissed his forehead, whispering, "Mommy's here. You're okay." Daniel stepped closer, voice gentle. "We'll get you to a safe place tonight." Emily nodded, tears falling freely now. Her nightmare was ending in real time, breaking apart like the splintered wood of the garage door. But she didn't yet realize. The most shocking truth had not been revealed, and Jack's arrest was only the beginning of the fallout to come. The chaos outside the garage washed over Emily like a tidal wave, flashing lights, hurried footsteps, radios crackling with clipped instructions. She blinked against the brightness, her body shaking as Detective Daniel Brooks guided her carefully into the cool night air. Rex stayed beside her, posture alert, as if guarding her from dangers that might still be lurking. Emily clutched Noah, pressing his cheek to her shoulder. He was exhausted from crying, tiny body trembling with every breath. She kissed the top of his head, whispering soothing words she wasn't sure he could hear over the pounding of her own heart. Behind her, officers struggled to control Jack as they walked him toward the patrol car. He shouted frantically, his voice wobbling between anger and desperation. You're making a mistake. She's unstable. You don't know what she's capable of. No one paid attention. Not even Madison. She stood near the garage entrance, her back against the wall, staring at the scene unfolding. Mascara streaked down her face, hands shaking. For once, she didn't look smug or superior. She looked terrified. Terrified of Jack, terrified of herself. Terrified of what she now realized she'd helped create. Officer Ramirez approached Madison. "Ma'am, we'll need a statement from you." Madison swallowed. I didn't mean for any of this. I thought he just needed support. I didn't think he'd—" She stopped, covering her mouth. "Let's discuss it inside," Ramirez said gently. Madison nodded, defeated. Daniel turned to Emily again. "Do you need to sit?" "I'm okay," she whispered, though her legs were trembling violently. "Just dizzy," he noticed. He stepped closer, steadying her with a guiding hand. "You're safe now. We're not going anywhere." Those words almost undid her completely. She bit down on a sob and nodded slowly. The next moments blurred together. An ambulance arrived. A paramedic handed her a soft blanket, wrapping it around her shoulders. Another checked her wrist, gently probing for swelling. Emily winced. "It hurts a little." "We'll document everything," the paramedic assured. "You're doing great. Doing great." She didn't feel great. She felt broken, exposed, trembling. But she also felt something else, something thin and fragile, yet undeniably present: hope. As she stood wrapped in the blanket, Emily watched Jack through the open door of the patrol car. His face was red with fury, spit gathering at the corners of his mouth as he shouted at officers who no longer cared about the performance. His hair was disheveled, tie crooked, eyes wild. It occurred to her that this was the first time she'd ever seen him without control. Jack slammed his cuffed hands against the seat divider. "Emily, tell them, you know this is wrong." She didn't move. Didn't speak. He leaned forward, desperation bleeding through his voice. "Emily, say something." She clutched Noah tighter, whispering into his hair, "You're safe now, baby." Jack's face twisted in disbelief as the door shut on him with a harsh thud. It echoed across the street like justice. Madison watched silently, hugging herself as officers led her to another car for questioning. She didn't look back at Jack. Not once. Daniel returned to Emily's side. "We'll transport you to the station to file a formal report. After that, we'll get you somewhere safe for the night." "Will he come back?" she asked, voice barely audible. "No," Daniel said firmly. "Not tonight. Not with the charges he's facing." Emily nodded, her body relaxing for the first time in months. As she stepped toward the cruiser that would take her away from the nightmare, she glanced once more at the broken garage door, the place where her life nearly ended and began again. What she didn't yet know was that inside that garage, officers had found something Jack never meant anyone to see. And that discovery would expose the darkest truth of all. The hospital room was too bright, too clean, too still. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, blanket draped over her lap, Noah sleeping in a bassinet beside her. Machines hummed softly. Nurses moved quietly. But inside her chest, everything throbbed with the echo of the garage door slamming, Jack's threats, the screams she never thought she'd have the courage to release. A doctor with kind eyes examined her wrist, gently turning it. "You've got soft tissue damage," he said. "Not broken, but painful." Emily nodded. Painful was an understatement. Still, she felt almost grateful for the ache it proved. What happened wasn't imagined. A social worker arrived next, offering resources, pamphlets, and warm tea. She spoke softly, as if afraid any sudden sound might break the fragile woman sitting before her. "You did the right thing," she kept saying. "You and your baby are safe now." Safe. That word again. Emily wanted to believe it. Detective Daniel Brooks entered after knocking lightly, holding a clipboard and a file folder. Rex waited in the hallway, lying dutifully near the door. Daniel approached slowly, giving her space. "We found something in the garage," he said. "Something important." Emily's breath caught. "What is it?" Daniel laid a small black device on the table. A hidden camera. Her stomach twisted. "It was pointed directly at the center of the garage," he said. "From what we can tell, Jack installed it months ago." Emily's voice trembled. "Why?" "To monitor you." Daniel's tone hardened. "But it recorded everything tonight." Everything. A shiver ran through her. "Even?" "Yes," he said gently. "Even that." Her knees weakened. She grabbed the bed rail for support. Proof. Unstoppable proof. The camera Jack used to control her had become the evidence that would destroy him. 2 days later, she sat in a small courthouse conference room with a pro bono attorney, a woman with sharp glasses and unmatched determination. The attorney slid documents toward her. "We're filing for a restraining order, emergency custody, and pressing criminal charges. With the footage, the injuries, the 911 call Emily, this is a strong case." Emily swallowed. "Will he get out on bail?" "He might," the attorney admitted, "but he won't be allowed near you." Terror flickered across Emily's face. Daniel, who'd been standing near the back wall, stepped forward then, voice low but steady. "He won't get near you, not as long as I breathe." Something in his tone, something firm, protective, calmed her heartbeat. Court came swiftly. Emily sat behind her attorney, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Jack entered in a suit that didn't fit the arrogance he once wore. His hair was messy, his wrists bore faint red marks from the handcuffs, and the confidence that once filled him seemed cracked. Madison appeared separately, escorted by an officer. Her expression was pale, hollow, defeated. For once, she wasn't wearing heels or designer clothes, just a plain blouse and trembling regret. When called to testify, Madison hesitated, then broke. She confessed everything. The affair. The pressure. Jack's threats against her too. Her fear. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Jack whipped toward her, betrayal etched across his face. "You liar." The judge silenced him immediately. Then the footage played. The shove, the threats, the scream, Noah wailing, Jack lunging. Emily covered her mouth, tears spilling silently. The room watched in stunned horror. When the lights came back on, the judge's voice was heavy with finality. "Mr. Carter, you are hereby charged with domestic assault, child endangerment, coercion, and unlawful surveillance. A long-term protective order will be granted. Custody will remain with Mrs. Carter." Jack's face collapsed. Everything he valued, control, image, dominance, shattered in a single ruling. Emily exhaled slowly, a trembling breath of release. But what she didn't know was that healing would lead her somewhere she never expected. Emily moved into her small but sunlit apartment 3 weeks after the court ruling, carrying only what truly belonged to her. Noah, a bag of clothes, a box of documents, and the thin but hard-won sense of freedom she feared might disappear if she blinked too long. The quiet felt unfamiliar at first. No heavy footsteps, no slammed doors, no voice waiting to tell her she was wrong before she even spoke. Just the soft hum of the heater and Noah's gentle breathing as he napped on the couch. She set up her workspace near the window using her old MacBook Air, grateful for the remote bookkeeping job her college friend helped her secure. Every keystroke felt like reclaiming a part of herself. Bills were in her name now. Health insurance, too. Her attorney insisted she keep everything documented, but Emily found she no longer opened drawers with dread. Sarah visited often, dropping off casseroles, baby blankets, and gentle encouragement. Her presence felt like a hand on Emily's back, reminding her she wasn't climbing alone. Sometimes they talked about hard things. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. Both kinds of conversations healed. Daniel checked in weekly at first, then casually, then more like a friend and a detective. He always knocked softly, always stayed at the doorway unless invited in, always asked how she was before asking anything else. Rex adored Noah, curling protectively near the stroller whenever they met at the park. One crisp autumn evening, Daniel stopped by with paperwork updates, but they ended up staying on the porch long after the conversation shifted to music, favorite childhood memories, and the strange comfort of second chances. Emily noticed how he never rushed her, never filled silence with pressure. She noticed her hands didn't shake around him. Months passed. Court hearings concluded. Jack accepted a plea deal that left him with 2 years of supervised probation, mandatory counseling, and a permanent protective order. He no longer looked powerful. He no longer looked like someone who could reach her. Watching him sign the final custody agreement had felt like watching a door lock from the outside. By spring, Emily found herself laughing again, really laughing like something inside her had thawed. She took Noah to the park every weekend, pushing him on the baby swing as he squealed with delight. She decorated the apartment with watercolor prints and fresh flowers. Healing wasn't quick, but it was real. One warm evening, while Emily set Noah into his crib, a knock sounded at the door. She opened it to find Daniel holding a small box and looking more nervous than she'd ever seen him. "Before you open it," he said softly, "I want you to know something. This isn't about rescuing you. You rescued yourself. I just had the privilege of seeing you rise." Inside the box was a simple silver ring, elegant but modest, the kind chosen by a man who valued meaning over display. Emily's breath trembled. "Daniel, there's no rush," he said quickly, "but if you're ready for a life built on respect, safety, and love, I'd be honored to walk it with you, both of you." Tears filled her eyes, not from fear, not from pain, but from the gentle surprise of happiness following her home. She nodded, whispering, "Yes, we're ready." And for the first time in years, the future felt like something she could step into without fear. She held Noah close, feeling hope bloom quietly, knowing their new beginning was built on courage, healing, trust, and a love she finally deserved. So, that's how the story closes, my wonderful friends. You're still here with me, right? If you're watching all the way until now, it means something in Emily's journey touched a place inside you, maybe a quiet place you don't always talk about. And that's okay. Life has a way of breaking us open before it builds us back up. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." And that's exactly what Emily lived. Pain became clarity, fear became strength, and survival became a new beginning. Maybe you've walked through your own dark garage, maybe not with walls and tools, but with doubt, loneliness, or silence you carried too long. Remember this. Healing doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives in small steps. In choosing safety, in choosing truth, in choosing yourself. And if this story reached you, even a little, let it be a reminder that you deserve peace, dignity, and a life where love feels gentle, not frightening. If this touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who might need strength tonight, and subscribe to our channel so we can keep walking these journeys together. You're not alone. We're here with you.